Hi, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids. I am a speech therapist with over 15 years experience serving young children with speech and language and other developmental disabilities. I've helped probably hundreds of families figure out how to communicate better with their kids, how to form deeper and better relationships with them, and just sort of take everybody's stress level way down. So that's kind of what I do. And today I am here to answer some of your questions. So we're doing some Q&A. We're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes. And depending on, who's here and what we get, we will dive into some of your stuff, or I've got questions that have come up over the years from parents that I've served, and I'll bring those up here so that we can talk about them. So this is my first Facebook Live, so I'm actually not sure how to see if anybody's here. So I'm going to play with that for a second. And I have no idea. So we'll just have to see. If you've got questions, comments, please go ahead and ask. And we will allow your viewers to request to join you as a guest in your broadcast. I don't think we're going to do that today. Okay. So one question that comes up a lot is about this 5 more minutes. So I've had parents say, we're at the park. It can be really, really hard to get my child to leave the park and go home, because they always want 5 more minutes and they're always pitching a fit because they want to stay. And the answer to that is yes, they do that. Toddlers are notorious, and actually kids under the age of sort of 3 or 4, they only know now. They're not invested in the future. They're not really invested in the past. They are highly invested in the now. And so if you tell them that it's time to stop what it is that they're doing now, they will resist, because what they're doing now is really fun. And they can't really wrap their brains around what might happen next if they stop doing this really fun thing. So that's where you get the 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Now, at some point, you probably said, yeah, we can stay 5 more minutes. So now we're going to get into sort of where some things that you can do to sort of leverage your child's status in the now and pull them into the next now, because the next now could be pretty fun too, assuming you're not taking them to the grocery store. Don't do that. So the first thing you want to do when you are sort of rethinking this 5 more minute tantrum thing is to make sure that you are being really, really consistent about your departure routine from places. So we're going to take the park just because it's a fabulous example of, a place kids don't ever want to leave because it's so fun. But a place that you do have to leave because you've got to get home, you've got to get to lunch, you've got to do the nap, all of that stuff. So what you just want to make sure of as a parent is that you are being very consistent about what are the steps involved when we leave the park. What happens, and just get real clear in your own mind about what are the things that happen when we leave the park. If your child is old enough and so inclined, you can have this conversation with them before you go, or at a low stakes kind of time. You can say, hey, I've noticed that it's really hard for us to leave the park sometimes. What do you think would help you? And one of the things I did with my son, and I don't remember exactly how old he was probably 4, is we had a conversation, and I said, how do you want me to let you know that it's almost time to go? And he said, I don't want you to tell me, because when you tell me, it makes me mad. But I want you to hold up your 5 fingers and just get my attention and do this. And so that's what we did. And it was kind of like magic. I would I would signal him when he had 5 more minutes, and little parentheses here, it doesn't actually have to be 5 minutes. It can be 10 minutes, it can be 3 minutes. 5 minutes is just like some small amount of time in your child's mind, okay? They have no idea what 5 minutes is. But I would hold up my hand and I would say, I wouldn't say anything actually. I would just hold him up and he would nod. And then he knew that the next time I got his attention, it was time to go. Now, a couple of other caveats here. When it's time to go, you got to be ready to go. You cannot, and it's really not fair, especially to your very young child, your 2-year-old. It's not fair if you are going to say, it's time to go, and then you're going to talk to your friend on the way out. And that's really where the sticky part occurs, right? Because you've stopped yourself to talk, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes with your friend, and that's fine, except then your child has noticed, well, we're not actually leaving now. So that's where the push-pull tends to come in, is that inconsistency. It's the, okay, well, what is the routine? And if I can get a few extra minutes, shouldn't I? And so, be really aware of, are you actually following through on the steps that you say you're going to follow through on? Because your child is going to pick those up. They're really savvy that way. So I'm hoping that is maybe helpful. Just take a look at your sequence of events and just get clear on what needs to happen, and then make sure that you follow through, because that consistency and predictability is what builds reliable, secure behavior in our kids. And honestly, it's a form of truth-telling on our part, right? If we say it's time to go, but then we're still there 15 minutes later, it's a little bit like lying. So something to think about. I honestly cannot see if any of you have questions, and I'm sorry about that. This is very funny. In any case. Oh, there we go. Okay. So another question that comes up is about pacifiers. And people have really, really strong opinions about pacifiers, and they worry a lot about pacifiers. And I am the speech therapist who's here to tell you not to worry so much. Here's what I tell parents. Don't let your child talk with a pacifier in their mouth. That's a really bad idea. Just don't allow that to happen. If your child is talking to you with a pacifier in their mouth, pretend you don't understand. And, don't answer until it comes out. So that's really easy. You pretend, you say, I think someone's talking to me, but I can't, what? I can't hear you, what? Oh, and then sometimes you can take the binky out, and most often they will. So that's the first thing. Don't talk with a pacifier in your mouth. Okay. The next one is, the next little piece of advice I want to give is, the pacifier is for soothing, right? We give it to babies who are crying because they need something to suck on. And sucking is like the ultimate self-soothing activity, right? When we're young. As we get older, we learn how to soothe ourselves in different ways. Some kids suck their thumbs, some kids suck their fingers, some kids suck on their shirts. Some kids don't need to suck so much when they get older. But some kids do, and if you've got a kid who needs to suck in order to be, and in order to calm himself down or herself down and get to sleep, I think that's okay. Just because they turned 2 is not some magic number where you've got to get rid of the pacifier. So I would encourage you to sort of look at, when is your child using the pacifier? Where is your child using the pacifier? And why? Is it because that's how they get themselves to sleep? Do they need it? Do you think they need it? Do you have evidence that maybe they don't? Have you been away and you forgot the binky and they fell asleep fine? In that case, take the pacifier away. They don't need it. Have you been somewhere and they couldn't get to sleep until they had the pacifier? In that case, maybe keep it. There's no magic in the age of 2. There's nothing that says, on your child's 2nd birthday, they must get rid of the binky. I would say, from my perspective, keep it in the bed if you can. The binky should not come with you in the car. Again, unless you've got like a medical or some other reason to keep it with you. The binky should be in the bed. And that's a really easy rule. Again, get clarity on what you will and will not tolerate as a parent, right? And you can transmit that to your child. And you say, this is for helping you sleep. It stays in your bed. And you might get some pushback, and then you just hold the line. You just say, the binky is for sleeping. The passy is for sleeping. It needs to stay in your bed. But again, if that's not important to you, if it's okay for you as a parent that your child be able to access the binky whenever they want, go for it. It's probably not going to hurt. Just don't let them talk with it in their mouth. That's sort of the 2 questions that came up for me this week. And I don't see that anybody has any more questions. So I think what we're going to do is wrap this up very shortly. But I'll be back on Thursday at 10 o'clock, which is 7 a.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time over in Europe. And I'll be back on Thursday. So you can leave me a comment on the Facebook page. If you have a question, you can drop it in there. And we will come back to those on Thursday. Okay, thanks for being here. Take care. Bye-bye.